We don't know how to free Zelda, but we do know why kids love them and critics hate them. John Stossel reports, nuts for Nintendo, when 2020 continues.
It may be the most addictive toy in history, and it's definitely the hottest thing this Christmas. Nintendo video games. They first arrived from Japan 3 years ago, and now millions of American kids are hooked and mesmerized. When they do stop to talk, it's in a language only they understand. Well, John Stossel went out to discover the secret of Nintendo's success, but first he had to find one.
New York City, early in the morning. Before the toy stores open, they're lined up outside. I'm in line too because the director of 2020 said, Stossel, I hate to ask, but you've got to help me get my kid a copy of Super Mario Brothers 2. This man came all the way from Indiana to get one. He came 1,000 miles just for this game?
Yes. I've done 7 stores a day for 3 weeks now. I cannot find it.
I have to live with my kids for the rest of the year, so I have to have this on Christmas Day.
So to please the kids, they line up at the few stores that have been able to get copies of the hottest Nintendo games, Mario 2 and The Adventure of Link.
I have Super Mario Brothers 2.
Now what's Nintendo, you ask, and why should you care? Well, I think it's something you should know about because it's captured America's children. School bus drivers report the kids are talking less about clothes and sports and what Joe did to Jane, and more about...
When you get to those things that go up and down, you just jump on them.
After school, even on the day that brings the first beautiful snowfall of the season. Everyone's eager to get inside the house so they can rush to get to the television set. Now, usually they don't play together. We invited them to a Nintendo party. They pop the cartridge into this deck, which attaches to any television set. These controls direct the characters. The better your eye-hand coordination, the better you do. Never has there been a toy that's been this successful. Bruce Apar is editor of a magazine that follows the industry.
How big a hit is this?
This is as big or bigger than anything the toy industry has ever seen. I'll give you one comparison. Barbie, which is an institution, does about $500 million a year. Nintendo does over 3 times as much.
Now, why is it so successful? Well, the people in the industry say Nintendo simply has the best games. They come in 2 categories. Sports games such as tennis, hockey, football, boxing, all with good graphics and sound effects. Even more popular are the adventure games like Super Mario. They tend to have ludicrous plots. Mario is an Italian plumber who, under your control, enters the Mushroom Kingdom to fight off killer turtles and deadly ducks until he can rescue the Princess Toadstool. The kids love it.
What's good about it?
Birdo. He shoots the eggs out of his nose. And also there's this part where you can't go anywhere except for fall down a pit, but you pick up this thing and this rocket appears out of nowhere and it flies to another board. It's weird.
And it's a big improvement over the first video games like Atari's Pong and Space Invaders, because today's computer chips are better. They have more memory.
There's much more involved in playing the game, much more excitement. There's better use of colors, better use of music. It's not just stick figures anymore.
We have literally over 100 different characters, people, animals, wizards, spells. You see this spread out over different worlds. And when I say different worlds, entirely different sets. If you think about the way a movie is produced, there are levels with caverns, and you break into underground oceans.
There's secret holes that you go into.
The kids delight in finding new twists to the games, secret passages they didn't discover the first times they played, bizarre new weapons.
You're throwing things that I've never even discovered in this game.
Yeah, because you don't know. If you're a grown-up, you hardly do this. If you're a grown-up, you have work to do.
Now, the chips, the technology that goes into this, was invented in the United States. Yet, the Japanese are the ones who make it a hit. Why is that?
Nintendo is a 100-year-old company in Japan, and they learned their lessons well.
When buyers lost interest in the first generation of video games about 4 years ago, Nintendo quietly watched as American companies quit the business. Nintendo then bought licenses to the best of the arcade games. They created new games by getting independent designers to compete against each other for the right to work with Nintendo.
Nintendo, please hold.
One moment.
Thank you. May I help you?
And in Seattle, at the company's U.S. headquarters, they listened to the customers. 50,000 people call Nintendo's 800 number every week asking for help with the games. Phones are manned by games fanatics who often play other games while answering questions.
What that is, when you're at that link, though, you're almost at that point.
Okay, what you want to do is, like I said, jump on the guy with the carpet.
In Japan, the games are an even bigger success. These people are upset because even after waiting all night, they were unable to get their kids a new version of a game called Dragon Quest. In the U.S., it's mostly Mario that they want.
The last Super Mario Brothers 2 was just sold. They get upset. Well, they say, oh, can you take my name? Can you take my credit card, please? Can you do something? My kid wants it. His friend has it, and they're not friends anymore because he doesn't have it.
All this makes me wonder, is the shortage real, or are they holding back supplies to increase the mystique? Coleco denies it, but industry insiders say that's exactly what happened with their Cabbage Patch doll a few years ago. The company shipped fewer dolls to increase the excitement. Today, some people in the toy business suspect Nintendo's holding games back. And while videotaping in Japan, we did see plenty of the hard-to-get cartridges. The company denies that it's holding back.
Believe me, creating a shortage of this kind was nobody's design, and it's just one of those combinations of demand that far exceeded our most optimistic projections and an inability on the chip supplier to fulfill it.
Now you really messed up.
All this brings us to a final question. Should parents buy these games at all? The National Coalition Against Television Violence thinks they shouldn't because they say they're bad for kids.
Like I like how you shoot the people with boomerangs and bombs. I just like jumping on things and killing them and shooting things.
The coalition says this will make some kids act violently. Well, I don't know about that, but there's another problem. Watching the kids play, seeing the intensity of their interest, the word obsession comes to mind.
I bet I'm much better than him at Zelda.
How many hours you play a day?
Around 1 or 2.
2 hours a night? When you should be doing your homework?
Yeah. She doesn't like
This girl's mother doesn't like the game.
Because she thinks that you're going brain dead while you're watching it.
Maybe you will be brain dead from staring at this thing all the time.
No.
And while we were talking, Mom was watching all this warily.
Gets their mind off school when they first come home from school, but then it gets their mind totally off school. So we had to take it away for a while because homework wasn't getting done, bedtime got pushed aside.
What do you mean take it away for a while?
I disassembled it and put it in the back of a closet for a while.
But now you're letting them play again.
Not as much.
John, what's your feeling after watching this? Does it make them, brain dead, as you said? Or isn't there a certain amount of imagination that you have to use for this game?
I think that's true, that it's not just like watching television. You have to use imagination. There are all these ways to handle the games. I think under the right time limits, it's fine. In fact, I got one while doing the story, and I'm going to keep it.
For you, or would you give it to your child?
Well, my 3-year-old likes kill ducks, and my wife and I stayed up till midnight playing it.
And you don't mind the so-called violence in it? Kill ducks, kill ducks?
They're animated characters, and I just think you have to pay attention and limit the time, and it's fine.
Now I know how you're spending the holidays, watching
right.
Nintendo.
So he wants $1 million for this thing, which I think is insane.
Yeah, I remember it, and I know why he's asking astronomical money on this one. This is probably the most significant piece of video game history that's ever passed through our grading company.
Okay, and he also said that this was the best condition.
Yeah, so what makes this special, there's a lot of different indicators. First, you're gonna see this sticker, so it's not shrink wrapped. It's from the test market launch of the NES, as far as we know, which was only in 1985 and 1986. No one even knew who Nintendo was. But back then, they were just another company. Once they started mass producing these and sending them across the country, they had to have something that would last on the shelves longer, which is also why seeing this in this condition is just, it's a complete anomaly. This is the second print, and it's the earliest known. There's no other second prints or even first prints known that are still sealed. So we don't know the exact number of copies that were printed in the first test market launch, but we're estimating it's somewhere around the 10,000 print run. And how many of those survived sealed? One, as far as we know.
So if this went into an auction today, your estimate would be?
It's really hard to tell. It hasn't sold on the open market. As video games are starting to be viewed more as art and history, not just these relics of nostalgia, this is it. This is the one that started it all. It's got the trifecta. It's got rarity, it's got popularity, everyone knows Mario, and it's got significance to collectors. But you know, with things like this, it's high risk, high reward. I know of firm offers that have been turned down at $300,000. It goes up from there. There's no ceiling, really.
Okay, I learned a lot today.
Absolutely. My pleasure, anytime. Good luck.
Thank you. At first, I thought you were crazy. I'm literally a little bit shocked and a little bit speechless, but realistically, what do you want for it?
I'm asking $1 million.
There's a big business in these right here, and I just been looking into maybe getting into it a little bit, but I'm not going to get into it with this kind of figures to start with.
I understand. I understand.
So have a great day. I learned a lot, and obviously I have a lot of research to do.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. It's good to meet you. Man. Thank you. I'm okay that no offer was made. I'm happy to keep the game, and it's a piece of history, so I'm happy to have it in my collection.
Hey, how you doing? Good, how are you? Pretty good. I'd like to sell a couple of Nintendo World Championship game cards.
Oh, wow. I've never actually seen these in person.
Most people haven't. These are the most coveted video games on the planet.
So do you have to blow in it to start the game?
Probably. That'll never change no matter what Nintendo game you have. I'm a big Nintendo fan. I grew up with it, and so now I collect the games. It was a time when Nintendo dominated pop culture. While they mean a lot to me, I think I need the cash more right now.
So what do you know about the Nintendo World Championship?
You enter the competition in 3 age groups. You play Super Mario Brothers, Rad Racer, and Tetris. And the winners competes for lots of cool prizes like $10,000 in cash and a 1990 Geo Metro. So awesome prizes. The gray one was traded into a local game shop where I lived, and the owner got in touch with me. I made him an offer, we made a deal. These were actually played in the competition. This, however, is even more extremely rare than that one. This was a Nintendo Power promotion giveaway. They gave away 26 of them.
Oh, you got the magazine.
Oh, yeah, these are great. So they gave out 1 to the first prize winner and then 25 to second prize winners. Today, there's maybe only a dozen or so that are still confirmed to exist.
I gotta ask, have you ever played them?
I have played them with a friend on 2 different TVs, just like the competition was. Here's a dip switch here, which changes the time on them. This was a time competition. These were individually numbered, so no one else has a number 205. And the gold one is really the same thing, but in a gold case.
So how much did you pay for these?
More than most people should have, probably.
You don't want to tell me, huh?
Not particularly, no.
And how much did you want for them?
$35,000.
$35,000, wow. That's a lot of money for me to fork out for some Nintendo games. You know, I have some concerns to whether or not that's how limited they are. I don't know too much about these things, rather than they are rare and they are cool. So I got a buddy I want to call to come down and and check these things out.
Okay.
Okay, give me just a second. I'll see if he's available.
Finally tonight, the latest video game craze to sweep the United States and Japan. It's called Nintendo. We have a report from Lee Hochberg of public station KCTF Seattle.
11 world-class contenders. Take them down with your controller, beat them all, and you've got a shot at Tyson's title.
Steal a base, adjust your infield or outfield, and pull off great double plays. I flip over Atari baseball, and you will too.
Afterburner, only on the Sega system. Sega, the challenge will always be there.
Last year in the United States, home video game sales hit $1.1 billion, driven by the game's popularity among 8 to 14-year-old boys.
Actually, my dad plays a lot too.
The best games are the ones that have like a lot of levels and you can't, pass right away. You have to take a while.
You've got to beat Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
Japanese-owned Nintendo of America has emerged as the industry leader. The company is based just outside Seattle, where it employs 275 workers serving the U.S. market. Its high-tech, high-profit products accounted for over 70% of all home video game sales in 1987. The company expects industry sales to double this year. Nintendo and its chief competitors, Sega and Atari, have seen the industry go through major changes in its 20-year history.
With the Atari 2600 video game system, games don't get older, they get better. Take Space Wars from 1979 versus the Solaris of today.
The home video fad of the early 80s had a spectacular rise, but the bottom fell out of the first home video boom virtually overnight. In 1983, earnings for the industry peaked at $3 billion. Only 2 years later, sales plummeted to a paltry $100 million. Industry experts like Howard Phillips, a product analyst at Nintendo, blamed the poor quality of the early video game systems for the market's collapse.
When it first came out in the early 80s, everybody rushed out to get one. It was so marvelous that you could have this in your home. It was great technology. It was something that all the kids were rushing to in the arcades. It was very, very enticing. Unfortunately, it was also junk.
Which way you go? Good times.
The current success of home video games, like Nintendo's hot-selling Legend of Zelda, lies in their advanced technology and challenging complexity. The old games were simply too simple.
The difference between 1982 and 83 and 1985, 6, and 7 is technology has taken a substantial leap in our favor. On a computerized circuitry, one action, for instance, pushing the A button in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, initiates a whole series of responses that are going to be depicted on the video screen. You're going to see your character pull back on his arm like he's going to throw a punch. You're going to see Mike Tyson start to lean away a little bit. Maybe his eyebrows will start to flicker a little bit because he's bracing for the blow that's coming from you.
The newest Nintendo game programs are developed in Japan, then they're transmitted electronically to the United States. Masahiro Ishizuka is part of the Nintendo R&D team.
We try to receive all games over the telephone line for the evaluation, and we feed back to Japan to meet American needs.
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Super Mario Bros., Kid Icarus, and Metroid are among Nintendo's biggest sellers, but so far, none has surpassed Zelda in popularity. The game is a complex, high-tech adventure fantasy. It can take up to 90 hours to successfully complete, and it's not uncommon for kids to spend hours playing it non-stop. It's also not uncommon for parents to become concerned over video game addiction. That's according to University of Washington psychologist Laura Kastner.
Well, I think the biggest problem is that the stimulus value of the video games is so high that the children are likely to want to spend a great deal of time involved with them. And then the parents start having concerns about whether this is the kind of activity they want the child to be involved in for 4 or 5 hours a night.
I remember every day after school I used to rush home to play my Nintendo, and I'd just spend hours and hours and just play all just from when I got home from school until I went to bed.
I know this kid, he's 13 years old, and he plays it all the time. Like, he's like how Zach used to be. He plays it, goes home, plays Nintendo, plays it before dinner, eats dinner, goes back, plays Nintendo, plays it till he goes to bed.
The parents worry the most where the children are clearly more involved with this than anything else, and withdrawing from other activities that might be growthful and good for them.
The legend of Zelda is so complex, and kids are so driven to unlock the secrets of the game, that they, like their parents, may turn to counselors for help. They don't turn to psychologists, however, but to professional video game counselors.
What'll happen is you'll get sucked into that pipe. Take care. Okay? Bye. And you'll go down into another warp zone. And what you're going to want to do then is go into that first warp pipe, and that will take you down to the minus world.
Nintendo of America has 75 full-time game counselors on staff. They handle an average of 25,000 phone calls from all over the country each week, calls that are not toll-free.
How do you get the wand? Is the wand in 7?
No, you're going to get the red candle in 7, just like in the first quest.
How do you get the Triforce?
Okay, there's another secret passage. You know where that room that has nothing in it?
Oh, yeah.
The Legend of Zelda, like Donkey Kong and many other video games before it, revolves around the age-old theme of a maiden in distress, which may be one reason boys, not girls, find the games so seductive.
Clearly, the population that's more interested in them and more involved in them are boys, and the reason for that is probably just more evidence of the sex typing in our culture, which are boys are more competitive, task-oriented, activity-oriented, so this is playing right into their interests.
By the end of this year, we will have, I think, close to 90 or 95% of households with boys between the ages of 8 to 16. So that means if you see a boy on the street, he's got one in his house.
Nintendo recently developed a new video game that's designed to attract girls, and which may ruffle a few feminists' feathers. It's aerobics. While boys seek to become heroes by rescuing fair maidens, girls are expected to work on their thighs. For those interested in something a little more assertive for girls, Dr. Kastner has a suggestion.
I don't know what the game would be, but it would be something about, the attractive, I think, would be beating out men going up a corporate ladder or something like that.
In addition to improved graphics and advanced technology, Nintendo also owes some of its staggering success to its aggressive marketing strategies. Nintendo kiosks are popping up in shopping malls all over America. And in Japan, where 1 in every 3 homes is equipped with a Nintendo Entertainment System, extraordinary demand for the product has drawn worldwide media attention.
All of teenage Tokyo seemed to beat a path to the door of the store, selling its latest video game cassette in an unprecedented display of consumer frenzy. The lines outside the Tokyo shop were so long that some waited for 20 hours just for the chance to buy the latest in a series of computer games called Dragon 3.
Nintendo's success in both Japan and the United States is helping fuel expansion at its American plant. The company is enlarging its facility to meet growing demand. And with Nintendo equipment in millions of homes, Howard Phillips says that video games are just the beginning.
Nintendo has got a piece of electronic gear which is in quite a few households now, and we're looking to get it in as many households as we can. In the future, who knows what we'll be able to do with this, in addition to the home video entertainment.